So the next book we have here is The Zombie Survival Guide, Complete Protection from the Living Dead by Max Brooks. Don't be reckless with your most precious asset, life. This book is your key to survival against the hordes of undead who may be stalking you right now without you even knowing. The Zombie Survival Guide offers complete protection through proven tips for safeguarding yourself and your loved ones against the living dead. It is a book that could save your life. Max Brooks lives in New York City but is ready to move to a more remote and defensible location at a moment's notice. His recent World War Z was hailed by fellow zombie expert Simon Pegg as an absolute must-have. I have the Duckworth edition, so nice red cover. Well, let's get into it, I suppose. Mine's a bit damaged, being a second-hand book, but we should have a look. Okay, for Mum and Dad and for Michelle, who makes life worth fighting for. It's always good to have someone that you can fight for, isn't it? Even if it's an imaginary friend. Just move that little bit of spider web off there. There's a few pages of contents anyway. So that's good. Contents, introduction, here we go. The dead walk among us, zombies, ghouls, no matter what their label, these somnambulists are the greatest threat to humanity, other than humanity itself. To call them predators and us prey would be inaccurate. They are a plague, and the human race their host. The lucky victims are devoured, their bones scraped clean, their flesh consumed. Those not so fortunate join the ranks of their attackers, transformed into putrid carnivorous monsters. Conventional warfare is useless against these creatures, as is conventional thought. The science of ending life, developed and perfected since the beginning of our existence, cannot protect us from an enemy that has no life to end. Does this mean the living dead are invincible? No. Can these creatures be stopped? Yes. Ignorance is the undead's strongest ally, knowledge their deadliest enemy. That is why this book was written, to provide the knowledge necessary for survival against the subhuman beasts. Survival is the key word to remember. Not victory, not conquest, just survival. This book will not teach you to become a professional zombie hunter. Anyone wishing to devote their life to such a profession must seek training elsewhere. This book was not written for the police, military, or any government agency. These organizations, if they choose to recognize and prepare for the threat, will have access to resources far beyond those of private citizens. It is for them that this survival guide was written, private citizens, people with limited time and resources who nonetheless have refused to be victimized. Naturally, many other skills, wilderness survival, leadership, even basic first aid will be necessary in any encounter with the living dead. These were not included in this work, as they can be found in conventional texts. Common sense will dictate what else should be studied to complement this manual. Subsequently, all subjects not directly related to the living dead have been omitted. From this book, you will learn to recognize your enemy, to choose the right weapons, about killing techniques, and about preparation and improvisation when on defense, on the run, or on the attack. It will also discuss the possibility of a doomsday scenario, in which the living dead have replaced humanity as the planet's dominant species. Do not discount any section of this book as hypothetical drama. Every ounce of knowledge was accumulated by hard-won research and experience. Historical data, laboratory experiments, field research, and eyewitness accounts, including those of the author, have all served to create this work. Even the doomsday scenario is an exploration of true-life events. Many actual occurrences are chronicled in the chapter of recorded outbreaks. Studying them will prove that every lesson in this book is rooted in historical fact. That said, knowledge is only part of the fight for survival. The rest must come from you. Personal choice, the will to live, must be paramount when the dead begin to rise. Without it, nothing will protect you. On the last page of this book, ask yourself one question. What will you do? End your existence in passive acceptance? Or stand up and shout, I will not be their victim, I will survive. The choice is yours. Well, that's an introduction, isn't it? Author's note. Because this book was written by a citizen of the United States, its pages contain specific references to aspect of Americana. No doubt examples like the cultural worship of automobiles and handguns might seem alien, even useless in relation to the international crisis. This might be true. Some US examples may be inapplicable, but the lesson behind them are not. The philosophy of this book has never been strictly American. Its tactics and strategies apply to survival-minded humans everywhere, regardless of nationality or locations. Oh, Mouse is quite itchy. Are you scratching there? Do you need help? The zombie menace is truly an international menace. Citizens of Western Europe and the British Isles, with their dense population, lack of violent crime relatively, and over 2 generations of peace, stability, and economic prosperity, are perhaps more vulnerable to the living dead than at any other time in their history. Anyone who believes the EU Parliament can resolve a zombie attack as easily as a lorry driver's strike would do well to study the last time a plague stalked their land. An outbreak may begin with 5 zombies in Andalusia, Spain, and in 3 weeks be swarming in thousands across the Lake District of England. Likewise, citizens of such geographically isolated countries as Australia and New Zealand are in grave danger to being lulled into a false sense of security. As we will see in later sections, including a collection of record attacks, physical distance is never a deterrent. Residents of these countries might look to the security of their vast underpopulated wilderness. In theory, this is correct. The outback or the Southern Alps could provide adequate protection, but how would you get there? How would you live there? And what would you do if you found zombies that were already there? From Glasgow to Cape Town, Dublin to Hobart, this book applies to you. The time has come to set aside our artificial boundaries and unite against the common threat of extinction. This is hardly the time for sterile, out-of-date nationalism. The living dead threaten us as one world, and only as one world can we survive. What a start to a book. Isn't it quite interesting? Okay. So now we're into the actual book itself. The undead myths and realities. He comes from the grave, his body a home of worms and filth. No life in his eyes, no warmth of his skin, no beating of his breast. His soul as empty and as dark as the night sky. He laughs at the blade, spits at the arrow, and they will not harm his flesh. For eternity he will walk the earth, smelling the sweet blood of the living, feasting upon the bones of the damned. Beware, for he is the living dead. Obscure Hindu text, circa 1000 BCE. Zombie, Zombie, also known as zombies, plural, an animated corpse that feeds on living human flesh. 2. A voodoo spell that raises the dead. 3. A voodoo snake god. 4. One who moves or acts in a daze like a zombie, a word of West African origin. And there's a nice picture of a zombie's face there. Well, I'm guessing that's a zombie's face. See Mouse, she got off the couch. What is a zombie? How are they created? What are their strengths and weaknesses? What are their needs, their desires? Why are they hostile to humanity? Before discussing any survival techniques, you must first learn what you are trying to survive. We must begin by separating fact from fiction. The Walking Dead are neither a work of black magic nor any other supernatural force. Their origin stems from a virus known as solanum, a Latin word used by Jan van der Haven, who first discovered the disease. Solanum, the virus. Solanum works by traveling through the bloodstream from the initial point of entry to the brain. Through means not yet fully understood, the virus uses the cells of the frontal lobe for replication, destroying them in the process. During this period, all bodily functions cease by stopping the heart. The infected subject is rendered dead. The brain, however, remains alive but dormant, while the virus mutates its cells into a completely new organ. The most critical trait of this new organ is its independence from oxygen. Big yawn from the dog. The most critical trait of this new organ is its independence from oxygen. By removing the need for this all-important resource, the undead brain can utilize, but is in no way dependent upon the complex support mechanisms of the human body. Once mutation is complete, this new organ reanimates the body into a form that bears little resemblance, physiologically speaking, to the original corpse. Some bodily functions remain constant, others operate in a modified capacity, and the remainder shut down completely. This new organism is a zombie, a member of the living dead. First source of this work. Unfortunately, extensive research has yet to find an isolated example of solanum in nature. Water, air, and soil in all ecosystems from all parts of the world have turned up negative, as have their accompanying flora and fauna. At the time of writing, the search continues. 2. The symptoms. The timetable below outlines the process of an infected human, give or take several hours depending on the individual. In hour 1, so this is after you've been bitten, in hour 1, pain and discoloration, brown to purple, of the infected area, immediate clotting of the wound, provided the infection came from a wound. Hour 5, fever, 99 to 103 degrees Fahrenheit, chills, slight dementia, vomiting, acute pain in the joints. Doesn't sound very good after hour 5. Hour 8, numbing of extremities and infected area, increased fever from 103 to 106 degrees Fahrenheit, increased dementia, loss of muscular coordination. Yeah, it's certainly going down now. Meows, why are you so itchy right now? Can you stop that? Hour 11, paralysis in the lower body, overall numbness, slowed heart rate. Hour 16, coma. Well, that certainly got there. Hour 20, heart stoppage, zero brain activity. Hour 23, reanimation. Transferus. Solanum is 100% communicable and 100% fatal. Fortunately for the human race, the virus is neither waterborne nor airborne. Humans have never been known to contract the virus from elements in nature. Infection can only occur through direct fluidic contact. A zombie bite, although by far the most recognizable means of transference, is by no means the only one. Humans have been infected by brushing their open wounds against those of a zombie or by being splattered by its remains after an explosion. Ingestion of infected flesh, provided the person has no open mouth or sores, however, results in permanent death rather than infection. Infected flesh has proven to be highly toxic. No information, historical, experimental, or otherwise, has surfaced regarding the results of sexual relations with an undead specimen, but as previously noted, the nature of solanum suggests a high danger of infection. Well, I mean, in Dungeons & Dragons 3.5, there's a class that's based entirely around that, and you gain powers depending on what you do from that, but that's something for another time. Warning against such an act would be useless, as the only people deranged enough to try would be unconcerned for their own safety. Many have argued that given the congealed nature of undead bodily fluids, the chance of infection from a non-bite contact should be low. However, it must be remembered that even one organism is enough to begin the cycle. Cross-species infection. Solanum is fatal to all living creatures, regardless of size, species, or ecosystem. Reanimation, however, takes place only in humans. Studies have shown that solanum infecting a non-human brain will die within hours of the death of its host, making the carcass safe to handle. Infected animals expire before the virus can replicate throughout their bodies. Infection from insect bites, such as mosquitoes, can also be discounted. Experiments have proven that all parasitic insects can sense and reject the infected host 100% of the time. Treatment. Once a human is infected, little can be done to save him or her. Because solanum is a virus and not a bacteria, antibiotics have no effect. Immunization, the only way to combat a virus, is equally useless, as even the most minute dosage will lead to a full-blown infection. Genetic research is underway. Goals range from stronger human antibodies to resistant cell structure to a counter-virus designed to identify and destroy a solanum. This and other more radical treatments are still in the earliest stages with no foreseeable success in the near future. Battlefield experiences have led to the immediate severing of infected limbs, provided this is the location of the bite, but such treatments are dubious at best with a less than 10% chance of success. Chances are the infected human was doomed from the moment the virus entered his or her system. Should the infected human choose suicide, he should remember that the brain must be eliminated first. Cases have been recorded in which recently infected subjects, deceased by means other than the virus, will nonetheless reanimate. Such cases usually occur when the subject expires after the 5th hour of infection. Regardless, any person killed after being bitten or otherwise infected by the undead should be immediately disposed of. See disposal, page 19. Well, we won't jump to that just yet. Reanimating the already deceased. It has been suggested that fresh human corpses could reanimate if Solium was introduced after their demise. This is a fallacy. Zombies ignore neurotic flesh and therefore would not transfer the virus. Experiments conducted during and after World War II, see recorded attacks, page 216 FF, have proven that injecting a solanum into a cadaver would be futile because the stagnant bloodstream could not transport the virus to the brain. Injected directly into the dead brain would be equally useless as the expired cells could not respond to the virus. Solanum does not create life, it alters it. Zombie attributes. Physical abilities. Number 1. Too often, the undead have been said to possess superhuman powers, unusual strength, lightning speed, telepathy, etc. Stories range on from zombies flying through the air to their scaling vertical surfaces like the spiders. While these traits might make for fascinating drama, the individual ghoul is far from a magical, omnipotent demon. Never forget that the body of the undead is, for all practical purposes, human. What changes do occur are in the way of this new reanimated body is used by the now infected brain. There is no way a zombie could fly useless. There is no way a zombie could fly unless the human it used to be could fly. The same goes for the projecting force fields, teleportation, moving through solid objects, transforming into a wolf, breathing fire, or a variety of other mythical talents attributed to the Walking Dead. Imagine the human body as a toolkit. The somnambulist brain has those tools and only those tools at its disposal. It cannot create new ones out of thin air, but it can, as you will see, use these tools in an unconventional combinations or push their durability beyond normal human limits. Sight. A. The eyes of a zombie are no different than those of a normal human. While still capable, given their rate of decomposition, of transmitting visual signs to the brain, how the brain interprets these signals is another matter. Studies are inconclusive regarding the undead's visual abilities. They can spot prey at distances comparable to a human, but whether they can distinguish a human from one of their own is still up for debate. One theory suggests that movements made by humans which are quicker and smoother than those of the undead is what causes them to stand out to the zombie eye. Well, I guess that makes sense in a way because horses communicate in very, very subtle ways with flicks of their ears and things like that. Experiments have been done in which humans have attempted to confuse approaching ghouls by mimicking their motions and adopting a shambling, awkward limp. To date, none of the attempts have succeeded. It has been suggested that zombies possess night vision, a fact that explains their skill at nocturnal hunting. This theory has been debunked by the fact that all zombies are expert night feeders, even those without eyes. B. Sound. There is no question that zombies have excellent hearing. Not only can they detect sound, they can determine its direction. The basic range appears to be the same as that for humans. Experiments with extreme high and low frequencies have yielded negative results. Tests have also shown that zombies are attracted by any sounds, not just those made by living creatures. It has been recorded that ghouls will notice sounds ignored by the living humans. The most likely, if unproven, explanation is that zombies depend on all their senses equally. Humans are sight-oriented from birth, depending on other senses only if the primary one is lost. Perhaps this is not a handicap shared by the Walking Dead. If so, it would explain their ability to hunt, fight, and feed in total darkness. C. Smell. Unlike with sound, the undead have a more acute sense of smell. In both combat situations and laboratory tests, they have been able to distinguish the smell of living prey above all others. In many cases, the given ideal wind conditions, zombies have been known to smell fresh corpses from a distance of more than a mile. Again, this does not mean that ghouls have a greater sense of smell than humans, simply that they rely on it more. It is not known exactly what particular secretion signals the presence of prey: sweat, pheromones, blood, etc. In the past, people seeking to move undetected through infested areas have attempted to mask their human scent with perfumes, deodorants, or other strong smelling chemicals. None were successful. Experiments are now underway to synthesize the smell of living creatures as a decoy or even repellent to the walking dead. A successful product is still years away. D. Taste. Little is known about the altered taste buds of the walking dead. Zombies do have the ability to tell human flesh apart from that of animals, and they prefer the former. Ghouls also have a remarkable ability to reject carrion in favor of freshly killed meat. A human body that has been dead longer than 12 to 18 hours will be rejected as food. The same goes for cadavers that have been embalmed or otherwise preserved. Whether this has anything to do with the taste is not yet certain. It may have to do with smell or perhaps another instinct that has not been discovered. As to exactly why human flesh is preferable, science is yet to find an answer to this confounding, frustrating, terrifying question. E. Touch. Zombies have literally no physical sensations. All nerve receptors throughout the body remain dead after reanimation. This is truly their greatest and most terrifying advantage over the living. We, as humans, have the ability to experience physical pain as a signal of bodily damage. Our brain classifies such sensations, matches them to the experience that instigated them, and then files this information away for use as a warning against future harm. It is this gift of physiology and instincts that has allowed us to survive as a species. It is why we value virtues such as courage, which inspires people to perform actions despite warnings of danger. The inability to recognize and avoid pain is what makes the walking dead so formidable. Wounds will not be noticed, and, therefore, will not deter an attack. Even if a zombie's body is severely damaged, it will continue to attack until nothing remains. F. Sixth sense. Historical research, coupled with laboratory and field observation, have shown that the walking dead have been known to attack even when all their sensory organs have been damaged or completely decomposed. Does this mean that zombies possess a sixth sense? Perhaps. Living humans use less than 5% of their brain capacity. It is possible that the virus can stimulate another sensory ability that has been forgotten by evolution. This theory is one of the most hotly debated in the war against the undead. So far, no scientific evidence has been found to support either side. G. Healing. Despite legends of ancient folklore, undead physiology has been proven to possess no powers of regeneration. Cells that are damaged stay damaged. Any wounds, no matter their size and nature, will remain for the duration of the body's reanimation. A variety of medical treatments have been attempted to stimulate the healing process in captured ghouls. None were successful. This inability to self-repair, something that was a living being's take for granted, is a severe disadvantage for the undead. For example, every time we physically exert ourselves, we tear our muscles. With time, these muscles rebuild to a stronger state than before. A ghoul's muscle mass will remain damaged, reducing its effectiveness every time it's used. H. Decomposition. The average zombie lifespan, how long is it able to function before completely rotting away, is estimated at 3 to 5 years. As fantastic as this sounds, a human corpse able to ward off the natural effects of decay, its cause is rooted in basic biology. When a human body dies, its flesh is immediately set upon by billions of microscopic organisms. These organisms were always present in an external environment and within the body itself. In life, the immune system stood as a barrier between these organisms and their target. In death, that barrier is removed. The organisms begin multiplying exponentially as they proceed to eat and thereby break down the corpse on a cellular level. The smell and discoloration associated with any decaying meat are the biological process of the microbes at work. When you order an aged steak, you are ordering a piece of meat that has begun to rot, its formerly toughened flesh softened by microorganisms breaking down its sturdy fiber. Within a short time, that steak, like a human corpse, will dissolve to nothing, leaving behind only material too hard or innutritious for any microbe, such as bone, teeth, nails, and hair. This is the normal cycle of life, nature's way of recycling nutrients back into the food chain. To hold this process and preserve dead tissue, it is necessary to place it in an environment suitable for bacteria such as an extreme low or high temperatures in toxic chemicals such as formaldehyde, or in this case, to saturate it with solanum. Almost all microbe species involved in normal human decomposition have repeatedly rejected flesh infected by the virus, effectively embalming the zombie. Were this not the case, combating the living dead would be easy as avoiding them for several weeks or even days until they rotted away to bones. Research has yet to discover the exact cause of this condition. It has been determined that at least some microbe species ignore the repelling effects of solanum. Otherwise, the undead would remain perfectly preserved forever. It has also been determined that the natural conditions such as moisture and temperature play an important role as well. Undead that prowl the bayous of Louisiana are unlikely to last as long as those in the cold, dry Gobi Desert. Extreme situations, such as deep freezing or immersion in preservative fluids, could hypothetically allow an undead specimen to exist indefinitely. These techniques have been known to allow zombies to function for decades, if not centuries. See Recorded Attacks, pages 193. Decomposition does not mean that a member of the Walking Dead will simply drop. Decay may affect various parts of the body at different times. Specimens have been found with brains intact but nearly disintegrated bodies. Others with partially rotted brains may control some bodily functions but be completely paralyzed in others. A popular theory has recently circulated that attempts to explain the story of the ancient Egyptian mummy as one of the first examples of an embalmed zombie. The preservation techniques allowed it to function several thousand years after being entombed. Anyone with rudimentary knowledge of ancient Egypt would find this story almost laughably untrue. The most important and complicated step in preparing a pharaoh for burial was the removal of the brain. Digestion. Recent evidence has once and for all discounted the theory that human flesh is a fuel for the undead. A zombie's digestive tract is completely dormant. The complex system that processes food, extracts nutrition, and excretes waste does not factor into a zombie's physiology. Autopsies conducted on neutralized undead have shown that their food lies in its original undigested state at all sections of the tract. This particularly chewed, slowed rotting matter will continue to accumulate as the zombie devours more victims until it is forced through the anus or literally bursts through the stomach or intestinal lining. While this more dramatic example of non-digestion is rare, hundreds of eyewitnesses reports having confirmed undead to have distended bodies. One captured and dissected specimen was found to contain 211 pounds of flesh within its system. Even rarer accounts have confirmed that zombies continuing to feed long after their digestive tracts have exploded from within. J. Respiration. The lungs of the undead continue to function in that they draw air into and expel it from the body. This function accounts for a zombie's signature moan. What the lungs and body chemistry fail to accomplish, however, is to extract oxygen and remove carbon dioxide. Given that solanum obviates the need for both these functions, the entire human respiratory system is obsolete in the body of a ghoul. This explains how the living dead can walk underwater or survive in environments lethal to humans. Their brains, as noted earlier, are oxygen independent. K. Circulation. It would be inaccurate to say that the zombies have no heart. It would not be inaccurate, however, to say that they find no use for it. The circulatory system of the undead is little more than a network of useless tubes filled with congealed blood. The same applies to the lymphatic system as well as the other bodily fluids. Although this mutation would appear to give the undead one more advantage over humanity, it has actually proved to be a godsend. The lack of fluid mass prevents easy transmission of the virus. Were this not true, hand-to-hand combat would be nearly impossible, as the defending human would almost certainly be splattered with blood or other fluids. L. Reproduction. Zombies are sterile creatures. Their sexual organs are necrotic and impotent. Attempts have been made to fertilize zombie eggs with human sperm and vice versa. None has been successful. The undead have also shown no signs of sexual desire, either for their own species or for the living. Until the research can prove otherwise, humanity's greatest fear, the dead reproducing the dead, is a comforting impossibility. Strength. Ghouls possess the same brute force as the living. What power can be exerted depends greatly on the individual zombie. What muscle mass a person has in life would be all he possesses in death. Unlike the living body, adrenal glands have not been known to function in the dead. Denying zombies the temporary burst of power we humans enjoy, the one solid advantage of the living dead do possess is an amazing stamina. Imagine working out or any other act of physical exertion. Chances are that pain and exhaustion will dictate your limits. These factors do not apply to the dead. They will continue to act with the same dynamic energy until the muscle supporting it literally disintegrate. While this makes for progressively weaker ghouls, it allows for an all-powerful first attack. Many barricades that would have exhausted 3 or even 4 physically fit humans have fallen to a single determined zombie. N. Speed. The Walking Dead tend to move at a slouch or limp. Even without injuries or advanced decomposition, their lack of coordination makes for an unsteady stride. Speed is mainly determined by leg length. Taller ghouls have longer strides than their shorter counterparts. Zombies appear to be incapable of running. The fastest have been observed to move at a rate of barely 1 step per 1.5 seconds. Again, as with strength, the dead's advantage over the living is their tirelessness. Humans who believe they can outrun their undead pursuers might do well to remember the story of the tortoise and the hare, adding, of course, that in this instance, the hare stands a good chance of being eaten alive. Well, we'll get on to agility at another time, but I think that's a good first part. I hope you've enjoyed this reading, and we're going to get into Max Brooks a lot more, and really just enjoy our time reading through this. Stick with us. You'll see many other books on the way, and I hope you're enjoying the series. We'll get back to some car stuff in upcoming videos. I've got some bits coming in the mail, and hopefully I can give you a bit more of a really cool ride along to what I'm doing daily, day in, day out.